Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. I can finally do a Peter Gabriel week. I was waiting for new release, new product to kind of get into the Peter Gabriel week. At his pace, as you probably know, this week could have come along sometime in 2043 or something, but no. We finally do have a brand new Peter Gabriel album, an album of newly written, new material from the studio which he has not released an album of new stuff. I'm not talking about covers and reworkings of his old material, live albums. No. New songs, newly written in the studio album. It's been 21 years, since Up. He's been working on this material since the mid to late 90s, supposedly, some of these songs. He had 150 songs in various stages of completion. It's very Peter Gabriel. He's the ultimate tinkerer. He loves to tinker, and he will take his time. But we finally do have I/O, input output, right? His new album. How good is it? Well, let's talk about it. We're going to review it. To kick off our Peter Gabriel week that we can finally do. So yeah, this, as most of you know, this was a unique release. Not only has he made us wait 21 years, for the album, he has been kind of dripping a song per month since January of this year. It's 12 songs on here. Every full moon, he put out a song. We had I think it was September. There's one month where there's two full moons, so that's how he was able to get all 12 songs out by the end of November. So then he could release the album in December 1st, right? That's when this came out. He claims that he's got a lot of other songs. He's had some time, and so he wants to keep this full moon thing going. So supposedly we're going to get another song per month into the future. We'll see. I'm looking forward to that if that happens. But I'm glad to have I/O because I have heard him and read about him talking about this next album I/O since the turn of the century. Okay, so here it is, finally. Is it any good? Now, there are there's actually three mixes of this album and two mixes that have been pretty prominent. And so there's the bright side mix and the dark side mix. And so on the full moon, he would release the bright side song, and then 2 weeks later, kind of in the middle of the month, or whenever the moon had waned, I remember all the timing, to the darkest point, he would release the dark side mix. Bright side mix, or these are done by Mark Stent, and the dark side by Chad Blake. Now there is a third, this Atmos inside mix by Hans Martin Buff. I haven't heard that mix yet. And of course, you can buy all the mixes on the CD. I bought kind of the deluxe CD, and there's 3 discs in here. And so there's the album and the bright side mix, the album and the dark side mix, and then the inside mix. And then on the vinyl, you can buy both. I saw both in the store. Now, vinyl being the price that it was, I wasn't going to buy both. I have tended to prefer the dark side mixes, so I had both sitting there staring at me. I will probably at some point go grab the bright side too. But I was going to buy one, and I chose the dark side. So I have the dark side on vinyl. You can tell the difference, in the packaging. The dark side is blue, the bright side is pink, and it does say here in the labeling, dark side mixes. So that's kind of how you know. So let's talk about this album. That whole drip drip thing. I was annoyed when he started doing that. It was like, dude, we've waited 21 years now. I gotta wait a whole year as you give one song. But I kind of got into that rhythm and sort of started to enjoy it. So I'd actually watch the moon, and it's like, oh, it's almost time for a new Peter Gabriel song. That's was kind of cool, and it did give you a chance to really kind of live with each of these songs, instead of usual just throwing it all out together in an album. And sometimes you kind of rush through it just to hear the whole record, and you already. But at the same time, I've been listening to these songs throughout the year on my phone, right? And to finally get the vinyl or even the CD, both. Um, it's a great experience. You have to finally hear it in physical form, as we prefer, here in the vinyl community, right? Um, the artwork, as always, is pretty awesome. Like that, and the vinyl especially comes with a wonderful booklet. I want to show this to you real quick. Kind of like with us, Peter Gabriel commissioned some artwork for each of these songs, and with a different artist. And so in the booklet, it's really nice, actually. Really nice booklet, because you have basically a fold out, 2 pages for each song. So you have the song credits and the lyrics to the song, and then a explanation. Peter Gabriel likes to explain things. Explanation of how the song and the artwork come together, and then of course on the other page, the piece that goes with each song. So this is Panopticon, and you have Playing for Time here, and you have The Court here, and then Four Kinds of Horses here, kind of a minimalist thing, and then the title track IO here, and so forth and so on, right? So real nice, actually. What is this? This is Home. So I don't. Nice booklet to go along with it, I think. Something else that's sort of interesting. I had gotten used to the release date, as the order, and that order is maintained on the CDs. It's shuffled a bit for the vinyl, just sort of interesting. I had to kind of get used to that when I put on the vinyl finally. It's like, wait a minute, because I got so used to that order of songs. But anyway, minor thing. So anyway, yeah, I do have the Dark Side here, and if you listen to them enough, Peter Gabriel has such sonic detail. He takes his time. There is, in some cases, noticeable differences between the bright side and the dark side mixes. So it's kind of interesting, sort of a fun game to compare if you're really, really, real fan. You got to be dedicated to do that. But anyway, like I said, I generally kind of go with the dark side, so this is why I bought the dark side on vinyl. Core band, a lot of guys that he's been working with forever. Tony Levin, of course, plays bass. Manu Katché on drums. David Rhodes on guitar. Those guys are intact. But then he's got a bunch of other musicians that come and go in each of these songs. Brian Eno shows up and put his Eno textures on some of the stuff. That's pretty cool. And like Us and Up, it definitely sounds worked on. I mean, it's, to me, it doesn't sound as labored as Up. I mean, Up is so dense, it's almost claustrophobic to me. I like Up. There's some great stuff on Up, but this one does sound at least a little looser, at least Peter Gabriel terms. A little more varied textures, I think, on here than say Up, which is nice. And he's again comparing it to say Up. This, I think, is more comparable maybe to Us, because he's at least sort of found the art of writing a catchy chorus again. There's a little bit more melody and some kind of catchy stuff in here, a lot more than Up. Like I said, Up was kind of dense, but there's still some very moody, lengthy pieces on here because it is Peter Gabriel, of course. His voice, man, his vocals are really intact. It's got that. It's one of his most potent weapons, and I think his voice really, that kind of lower, kind of sort of gruffer, darker timbre that he's had since, I don't know, I guess since So or Us, it's still very much intact, and he can still get up and do that great falsetto that he goes back and forth. He can do it all. I mean, he really can. His voice is pretty much still intact when I saw him live. a couple months ago now, or when I was in October. Um, so yeah, that's intact. Let's talk about these songs. Opens up with Panopticon, which it's a great song. A lot of great kind of musical textures to it. The chorus is really driving. I think it drives harder than anything on Up did. Um, Nice acoustic guitar comes in sometimes, and so it's kind of varied sonic textures, which is cool. And what's the song about? I think a lot of it is sort of the the surveillance, of the kind of our world where this loss of privacy and we're all connected in some ways. He also like he likes to explain these songs, so I will quote Peter Gabriel, where he says Panopticon. He says this: the first song is based on an idea I have been working on to initiate the creation of an infinitely expandable, accessible data globe, the Panopticon. We are beginning to connect a like-minded group of people who might be able to bring this to life to allow the world to see itself better and understand more of what's really going on. I think the song sounds really cool, so I like the song. It's got the lyrics are actually kind of pretty dark sounding. He talked about like tentacles reaching out to you. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. I love the court. That one's really grown on me. A lot of this grows on you. This he works so much on this stuff that there's a lot of detail that you pull out through repeated listenings. The court is great. Uh, it's kind of sort of talk singing, but he does that well with his kind of his voice, and interesting textures there too. Great snaking piano line that comes in the second part of that song. I love that part. That's awesome. Um, yeah, yeah. It's just like I said. There's a lot of detail here. Something that's cool too is you definitely hear to me sonic references to earlier Peter Gabriel. It's not that he's copying himself. This is all still different enough, but you hear snaking guitar lines that are sort of reminiscent of, say, Digging in the Dirt. Um, it's either Road to Joy or Olive Tree. I think it's Road to Joy that sort of reminiscent, at least to me, of like Kiss That Frog, from Us. So you can hear echoes, but it's still its own work as well, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, love the court. The court is about kind of a dark view on the state of justice around the world. Gabriel does like to comment on sort of global politics sometimes. I think the most beautiful song on here, maybe my favorite song, is Playing for Time. Gorgeous. And it's interesting that is a pretty spare, just kind of Gabriel playing the piano and singing, and then there's some strings in the back. Um, Beautiful, like simple, beautiful piano melody, gorgeous singing from Gabriel, great lyrics. It's not till about 4 minutes in that the drums and the rest of the band kind of burst in, and that's really nice after 4 minutes. Kind of a powerful closing, last 2 minutes. Um, so much. It's another song, very similar deal where it's real spare but beautiful piano line and just Gabriel's vocals. Both of those songs, So Much and Playing for Time, he's really addressing, I think, the passage of time and aging, appropriate for a man of his vintage. Playing for Time, it's very Randy Newmanish. It sounds, at least that first part, the piano and the singing. I think Gabriel even said he was kind of inspired by Randy Newman, so it's great. The title track, "I.O." that's a rocker. I think in a different time, it's got this real anthemic chorus. In a different time, that would have been a radio hit. It's a great song. Going on kind of the other extreme, Four Kinds of Horses, maybe my favorite of his sort of expanded, kind of moodier pieces. He's always got that on there. Very cinematic, right? All the soundtracks he's done. But Four Kinds of Horses, I think, is pretty gorgeous. You can hear a lot of the Brian Eno stuff where Eno has contributed quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Panopticon, The Court, I.O., Road to Joy, Olive Tree. those 5 songs actually are kind of up tempo. I think in some ways kind of rock a little bit more than most things on Up did. So that's kind of cool to hear him, really kind of at least play with some pop forms again. Excuse me. But a lot of the rest of it is sort of moodier and more kind of more recent Peter Gabriel-ish, But it's a nice mix. It's a nice mix of it all. Does it all work for me? No. My least favorite songs are the 2 closers, and Still is one of those moodier, quieter ones. It's almost around the 7 something minute mark. Doesn't do a whole lot for me, at least for me. Doesn't really go anywhere really. And then Live and Let Live, supposed to be this kind of anthemic closer. If there's one thing, or one of the things that I might criticize on some of these songs, the lyrics are a little lacking. Maybe the lyrics are a little trite. Like Love Can Heal. Of course it can. Okay. And then This Is Home. These are some of the other songs on here. The whole, You're My Home. And, that it's been, that area has been explored before quite a bit in songs. Although the music for Love Can Heal and This Is Home is both those songs is really great music though. Can't complain about the music, but just some of the lyrics. And Live and Let Live, is this supposed to be this kind of anthemic closer, this cry for peace. He quotes the eye for an eye, makes the whole world blind from Gandhi, and the lay your weapons down. I just, like I said, just kind of some obvious lyrics, at least for Peter Gabriel, in my mind. And the world being as complex as it is right now with all the issues, it just seems a little trite. But it's a nice sentiment, right? We could all use some peace. But anyway, I just think those 2 songs are maybe the weakest parts of the album for me. I guess it's kind of nice in a way because they're at the end, so I can listen to the whole thing up to that. You know, pretty much loving most of everything else. So yeah, I think this is really strong. I mean, you'd hope after 21 years, but I think this is really strong. How strong compared to everything else? Well, you're going to have to see, because we are getting into our Peter Gabriel week. So the next couple of episodes, we'll be exploring the brilliant, fascinating work of Peter Gabriel. I'm real excited about this week. And so the next episode will be the albums ranking. And of course, I will be putting this one in there. So where does this fall in the whole discography? We'll have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please do tune in to the next couple Peter Gabriel episodes. If you don't like Peter Gabriel, we'll be on to something else anyway soon after that. So we really appreciate you watching. Like the videos, hit the bells for notification, subscribe if you haven't done that, share the video. All that stuff helps us out. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.